Hey buddy, it is December 1st, 2018. We are back in the basement. Some of you may have seen another video I made building something down here, but it's not set to public. But anyway, because it was for a special project. This is going to be public because I am making a boarding display frame for my Sudbury Ejecta polished piece that I have. Now, you can't really buy anything for this. I mean, I guess I could buy one of those plate displays, but this thing weighs, I think it's close to 5 pounds around. So I don't want to put it on that. It's a lot heavier than a plate. It might even be 6 or 7. I don't really remember. I'll have to look again or weigh it again, and I'll post it up here to correct it if I'm wrong. So I want this nice piece displayed. I've showed it to you guys before. There's the finished side, there's the unfinished side. All right, so I'm gonna do this, and I kind of want to make it so that the bedding is level. So it's gonna rest kind of like this, all right? So it's gonna be a little awkward shaped, but hopefully it'll support this. Okay, I've measured the rock that the stand is going to support, and it's about 10 inches high at its highest, about 7.5 wide at its widest. Now, since this is a rock and it's heavier than, say, a plate, I want to keep the bulk of this stand as close to the bottom as I can, so the center of gravity of this thing doesn't make it top heavy and want to tip over at all. I want this thing to just sit and not have to worry about the tiniest bump of a cabinet or a shelf causing this thing to fall forward. So I guess I'm going to start now, and I'm going to start with this 1x6. The plan is to cut the back 2 supports. I'm just using 2 angled supports. I'll cut one here and then come across this way, and those should be the same size and allow me to make the legs of this thing. Okay, so I've decided to make the legs at their highest point 8 inches high, and I'm just going to use my oversized square here. Because remember, I can make them 8 even though the thing's only 7.5 inches because everything's going to be angled anyway, so it's not really that big of an issue. So I'm just going to use my angle. Alright, so there's my first line. Now I'm just going to angle it like this. Actually, I want to do it like this, I think. Make this kind of crappy edge a top that can be sanded down. So I will do that. All right. Now we're gonna get sawdust all over that. We're really close. So it's not bad. Like I said, I'm probably gonna cut 1 inch off anyway from sanding. As long as where it's anchored is flush, I'm good to go. Just hand sand that a little bit. All right, I have sanded the tops or the bottom a little and the side where the backboard's gonna rest. Haven't done this yet. I'm gonna use my belt sander for that. I'm just gonna flatten it off. I mildly sanded that with 150. I want this to remain rough. Same thing with this bottom. Why? Because it's going to be the legs, and I don't want the legs to be really smooth and, polished because somebody knocks a cabinet or a shelf and it's going to move. So I want that little bit of friction. As for the sander, okay, I'm going to use this leftover piece of plywood from my last project. I don't care that it's stained because I'm going to use the exact same stain from the exact same bucket to stain this whole thing. So I'm going to measure and cut out a piece, square piece, best I can, that will fit that 10 by 7.5. Now, the beds are pretty close to being with that bottom base, so I was thinking about angling this thing, but I'm not going to do that. I am going to make it level. So I'm going to cut that out. Well, lay it out, then cut it out. And then I'll anchor these to it and do the bottom shelf. Okay, there's the back. I'm going to use this as the back because it's got a little rough edge on the cut. And I'm not going to sandwich. This thing doesn't need to be perfect. Just needs to work. So then these will be put here as far away as possible in order for increased stability. And that's how it will rest. Now, I thought about this. I was going to anchor those first, but I think I'm going to make the bottom and the side post and a little front one. So like a mini box, basically. A very long one without a top. I think I'm going to do that first and then put that on here. So I cut some long strips, obviously not the same width, out of this 1x6. You can here, and I'm going to screw that in on the bottom. And I think this piece, it's going to cover a significant amount of the breccia, but it will help hold it a little better. And then I'm going to have to measure this space and put little blocks in here to keep it from moving left to right. Okay, what I've done here with the backboard is through the back at the base, I put 3 screws in. I just measured from the height up, that the height up was consistent. I don't really care about their spacing. Okay, so here's that part, 3 screws in the back, this piece. Next is to do something similar that I did here, except do it here. I'm gonna pull it back a little bit because I kind of want it more towards the middle. I'm not gonna cut it again, but just so the piece, the rock will sit here and be closer tight. I can always put something cute there or something like that. This will be done in a second. Get that down. This, I'll just sand. As you can see, it's sticking out a bit. I'll just use the belt sander to sand that down. Yeah, flush that side out with the belt sander. Now when you do this, you have to kind of practice set it with just one. The reason why you want to do that is because you don't want to put this incorrectly and then have this up too high or down too low, and then it leans like, down too low is worse. And then it leans like that. You want it at the bottom, as you can see, as close as you can to the, you want the bottom of this as close as you can to the bottom of that. The outside, the back towards your leg. Okay, when you do this, you want to put 1 screw in first. So the screws should be about twice as thick as your boards, or as your, in this case, the thinnest board. Because you want the screws to be long, but not too long that they rip through the wood and compromise its durability and stability. And you don't want them too short so the stuff pops out. But when you're doing this, do this one first. You only need 2. This one's going to be your anchor. And once it's in, that way you can move this like this. Because if you put this one in first, this one, screw it in, then you can do this in case your piece is not parallel to an upright edge. And then you just do, you drill your hole for the second one, and that just holds it in place. That's really all it does for that. Actually, turned out to be pretty decently stable. I'm actually pretty proud of this. See if it holds. It does. So I still haven't decided what I'm going to do about keeping it from moving left or right, but I think you get the point. I'll show you some videos sometime in the future when it's done. But yeah, now I got something to hold my Sudbury Ejecta layer that was found in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Sudbury is where we were last weekend. That's the actual site of the impact. Thunder Bay is probably 900 kilometers away, 800, something like that. Well, there it is, guys. Essentially finished. I stained it, the espresso. I'm gonna have to do it again. The stain sticks real well to plywood, not so well to these cheap 1x6s. But yeah, a couple coats, it'll work. But that's essentially it.